Here we have Ethereum versus the dollar, requested by the good friend Mr. Josh, and we are looking at, well, hopefully, or at least he's presenting this as potentially an ascending triangle in the daily. I do think that there is some legitimacy to that. At the end of the day, it doesn't necessarily need to be anything more complicated than this, in my opinion, which is the same chart that we've been working off of for the last I don't know, for the last like few weeks here actually, which is basically the 4130-ish region right here as a major precipice for the long term, meaning that if you do start to get back above that region, that would be resolving this as one major low, whether you call this any triangle or whether you call this a falling pizza, whatever the fuck you want to call it. You know, they both are kind of one and the same and suggesting a relatively similar thing. And there is measure moves to be made off of both of these. If we are looking at this as an ascending triangle, you have a measure move, something like this right here, and I imagine that's going to be pointed up towards your top side of your daily range, which is 4,500. And then of course above there, I would be looking for the falling pizza measure move to be playing out, which is in line with the 1.414 at about 4950-ish region, which would imply obviously new all-time highs. And then we can start to talk about, you know, targets into the shallow 5,000, which is probably around about 5,400 if I had to guess, or at least from memory. Anyways, you did denote that this is shaping up to be a very mature consolidation, of which I would certainly agree. We see daily BBWP on the floor. The longest time that we spent on the floor basically since August of 21, which did precipitate, of course, this major run right here coming out of this base, actually somewhat similar base in the short term based off of that, what would have been an ascending triangle right here. And while it doesn't look like much, of course, on log scale, this was a pretty impressive move, about 32% right there. Yes, it didn't get continuation on top of that, but ultimately, with volatility being this low and not Bitcoin, but Ethereum being this close to the highs, I do look at this as, you know, a pretty major turning point alongside all of our momentum oscillators, of which they are essentially suggesting some more upside continuation right here. Daily RSI playing out some drives of bullish evidence come off the lows and also rejecting the bearish control zone, which is good. And we see the same sort of formations going on right here as well, which is, well, you know, just another set of confirmations right there. Daily Jewel is of course heading up. Now I would like to see the DMI support that. Of course, it is actually, it is kind of getting into a bit of a resistance region right there as well. So maybe does spend a little bit of time going sideways here. So let's come up with a bit of an invalidation for this sort of a setup, of which, again, I do suspect that this one's very mature. Where does this one start to fall apart and no longer you do have a more immediately bullish setup? Well, short term would be a little bit concerning, coming back down below about $4,000, especially on a 4-hour closure. The area, however, that would be massively concerning and imply moves back down to your current lows at about 47 to 4650, or not 46 or 47, but 3,700, 3650 or so, would be if you do come back down and take out that last 3,900 higher low right here from 23rd of December, right before that Christmas time. So ultimately, I do agree that the setup is certainly there. Higher term timeframes like the 5-day and the weekly looks like they are putting in higher lows right around the yellow 20-minute exponential average, which is, you know, generally a good thing. Doesn't mean that you can't again come back down and maybe take another swipe at it. In fact, it might even be a little bit likely right here, especially on the weekly as well. But ultimately, these are decent setups. Now, do we have potential hidden bullish evidence on the weekly? No, we do not, which is, I wouldn't say it's concerning, and nor do we have it on the 5-day as well. It's not like a bad thing, but it just would have made this a lot easier. Let's go check out what momentum looks like from this angle as well. See what the daily looks like right here, and daily momentum will remain to the upside force from a stochastic perspective as long as it's above about 3850 or so. If we go over here to the 5-day and the weekly, we do see that it's still correcting 4569, and the weekly is showing 4411, which are both interesting, as these would still be considered a bit of a bullish correction, as you know, this one essentially puts in a higher low right here. But again, that would imply that Ethereum is probably not ready for any sort of major macro breakout. I wouldn't say anytime soon, but at least in the next like couple weeks, if I had to guess right now, probably looking at more around like middle to end of January at the earliest, in my opinion, if you are going to be looking for new all-time highs. So again, if you do take out the top side resistance of this one, which is 4130-ish region, 4130-ish region on no less than a daily closure, could maybe even use a 12-hour as well if you want to be a bit more aggressive, but I'd move that number up towards 4150, personally speaking. I still would just be looking for a move, not just looking for a move, but I'd be looking for a move towards about 4500 rather than like the big bag macro breakout, which probably does pull back from that region, sets in a higher low, and then, well, you know, likely off to the races, assuming that the rest of the market behaves. But for right now, Ethereum in a good posturing, but obviously not as good as some of the other layer ones, which are just going to the moon and beyond. So hopefully that was helpful. And there you go for Ethereum, sir.